When I meet people and they tell them I do something called SensoriMotor repatterning, they're always trying to get me to explain it, and it's very hard to explain, but I'm going to try. So what I do is I look for faulty sensory input, which is causing motor control dysfunction. Motor control dysfunction, what I mean by that is generally inhibition. So let's say your arm's out like this and you stay rigid and we drop a heavy force on you. You're much more likely to sustain significant injury, such as breaking bone or ripping muscle off the joint up here, than if this happens. So for that reason, our brain defaults to inhibition when it is receiving too much faulty sensory input. When I see somebody, I test 60 muscles lying down and write a list of all the muscles that aren't functioning correctly. I have never met anybody who can pass all the tests. Most people have a lot of inhibited muscles, actually. And interestingly, because these are very dynamic movement dysfunctions, people will fail more tests lying down than when they're standing up. So we get all the muscles functioning lying down, then we translate that to standing, and then eventually we translate that to functional movement patterns. Normally 3 sessions, that's my typical treatment protocol. So how do I do that? How do I teach the nervous system how to resolve faulty motor control? I simplify the nervous system into 2 parts. We got the functional part of the brain that always wants to move from less dysfunction to more dysfunction, and the safety part of the brain that's created these safety responses to begin with that says, I'm not feeling safe at the moment, I'm not going to engage this muscle, and this muscle. I'm really just the in-between that goes, hey, functional part of the brain, look, these muscles are not functioning correctly, and it is due to this safety mechanisms here. Specifically, what I'm looking for is proprioceptive dysfunction. So when I find motor control dysfunction, so somebody can't pass, let's say, hip flexion. So if I'm pushing on their leg down and they can't resist correctly, as they can on the other side, then that's an inhibited muscle. I'll palpate around to see if I can change proprioceptive input somewhere else on the body that has an overriding response on the safety mechanism. That means by changing the proprioception in one part of the body where, say, there's been an accident or surgery, it modifies the safety response, which then bypasses it and allows the motor control to return briefly back to normal function. And it's my job just to go, hey, functional part of the brain, here's the 2 receptors that are causing this safety response and allowing it to correct it. And it really just takes a very specific manipulation of the tissue in the area where the proprioception is dysfunctional. And we go from dysfunctional motor control, manipulation, functional motor control. It's minutes, if not seconds, once we've identified where the issue is. On a first session, I'll normally find one simple dysfunction like that and give somebody the demonstration of how easy it is to resolve motor control. But then I'll also say to them, we don't want to go through and find potentially 1,000 dysfunctions of motor control that you potentially have. Instead, we want to think of the nervous system more like a pyramid. Some high-level injuries or surgeries up here that when we resolve motor control or proprioceptive dysfunction related to, let's say, a broken arm, it will trickle down and fix 300 of the 1,000 dysfunctions. It used to be years ago that I would go through and find as many dysfunctions as I could. And it was only through clinical insight that I realized that we really can get to the top of this pyramid and be a lot more efficient by working on high-level injuries, that when we come back to test our list of 60 muscles, that when we treat a high-level injury and resolve that motor control and the proprioceptive dysfunction, that it makes a vast change to many of the other dysfunctions that our nervous system is processing incorrectly. Complicated, I know. There isn't really an easy way to explain what I do. The best way for me to explain it is to show people in clinic, which is why I loved a first session. I love to explain by showing how the nervous system very easily goes into safety. It prioritizes safety over function every time. The other thing that I do is I use the acupressure system a lot. The reason being is anytime there's a proprioceptive dysfunction from an injury, there's a parallel indent in the acupressure system that has a relationship with that safety response. And that actually is very high up in how the nervous system deals with safety. So I can use proprioceptors to teach the nervous system how to resolve a safety response, but I can also use acupressure points, and it's more efficient. And over the years, that's where my focus has been on, is trying to figure out the most efficient way to resolve motor control. I'm Colin. You can find me at vansmr.ca. I'd love to you to come in and experience this for yourself. 3 sessions is a good amount for most people. I aim to get full resolve of chronic pain, or at least significant improvements within that time. Thank you.